Welcome to episode 1 of the Daily Log Diaries. I'm kind of hitting the reset button and rebooting the series because I think it's been over a year since I've made a video in this style, so I hope you don't mind me calling this episode 1 again, but honestly I've been struggling a little bit to figure out how to create content again. Like, I haven't really found my groove this year, so I was doing a little bit of reflection on what is it that I enjoy watching, and a lot of it is this kind of like semi-vlog style content. I watch a lot of artist vlogs like Tammy of Uncomfy Co. I watch Kathleen a lot. Of course, I love Megan Rhiannon's Attic Archive series, along with her now new Proof of Life series, and I just think it's kind of fun to share little tidbits, and since that's the content I like to consume, I thought, why don't we try creating in that style? And I feel like every time I come on anyway, it's these like really big system update videos, and I don't really share like myself using the notebooks anymore, so this is a good way to kind of do a little bit of both. So we're kind of back into uncharted territories. I hope you don't mind, but I think this will be something that I look forward to kind of creating with. But I captured a couple clips of this week and realized that the last video on my channel, if you happen to catch that, was a personal ring setup. And of course, in front of me is a Hobonichi Weeks. And yeah, I kind of joke that the Hobonichi Weeks is my emotional support planner. And to not get into it, let's just say I needed some emotional support this week. So back we are into it. And basically I found that the personal rings was too heavy and too big to take around with me. I'm the type of individual who takes the planner with them everywhere, kind of like a security blanket, and it's the same issue I have with personal rings every single time. I tried to go back to my pocket rings, but the monthlies and the weeklies felt really cramped compared to my personal. So when I was thinking through what my options are, I was like, you know what, the monthlies and the weeklies are almost identical to my personal size, but the notebook itself overall weighs a lot less. It's a lot slimmer, it's more compact, it's thinner even than my pocket rings. Maybe it's time to go back to Hobonichi. So I hit the reset button in more than one way over the past week, and here I am with my brand new Hobonichi Weeks. So what you'll notice as I kind of flick through these pages is that this is actually a completely brand new notebook. I don't know, I guess I choose pain every year. I wake up and I choose violence. So I did start with a brand new notebook, and I'm actually in the process of kind of consolidating my rings pages and backfilling this notebook. And I've never really shared that process or talked through that process, so I thought I would do that today a little bit, or this week. I am switching journal as well, but we're gonna put a pin on that because it's not here yet. So maybe that'll arrive sometime this week, but I am planning in the Hobonichi Weeks Mega again. And I always go for a Mega because I bullet journal in the back, and a big part of my bullet journal practice is daily logs. So you'll see why I'm a little bit insane in doing this. But anyway, this is my personal planner. So events, appointments, things I need to do, things I want to remember, notes I want to be able to reference in the future, a little bit of memory keeping, but that will long-term live somewhere else. I don't plan for work in here either, other than Lindsay Scribble's stuff does kind of have a spread, but my 9 to 5 lives in a separate Hobonichi Weeks. It's a standard size in the gingham. Sorry, my camera is like, I updated my phone and it's like auto-focusing like crazy. But yeah, so this is sort of my hybrid bullet journal is what I refer to it as. I do use the spread a little bit functionally. I've got my paydays and now our recycling pickup days underlined in pencil. I don't think the camera will pick that up. My habit trackers I brought straight over from my previous Hobonichi Weeks, so I will use this as my workout tracker. And then I brought a couple printables over from my shop. These are in pocket size, so like Filofax pocket, and this is the annual monthly, which I use to track my cycle. And then I have a no spend tracker on the back, and then a fold out that is not in the shop. But if you guys are interested in it, let me know. But I use this to track my sort of like eating habits. But yeah, I do use this as my bullet journal. So my like hybrid is because I do use the predated page. So birthdays, events, appointments, all of that, you know, future standard stuff goes in the monthly. My weeklies I use kind of as a dashboard. I do all day events and appointments on the left-hand side, a small habit tracker at the top, my running list for the week. I draw some squares at the bottom to do meal planning, and then my grocery list or kind of shopping list kind of goes at that section there. And this layout I actually have been doing in my rings all year, inspired by using my Hobonichi weeks early January. So we're kind of back home to, to where this layout began. But then in the back, this is where I bullet journal. So you'll notice I've kind of tabbed off some things, and we'll explain that kind of as we get into it. But the notes pages, I set up my habit trackers for the year, which is kind of what I've got tabbed out. But most importantly, I have my daily logs. So I do set up a daily every single day. I kind of reference my weekly spread, transfer over my to-dos, do a little bit of a mental inventory, write down my to-do list, and then I kind of live in the daily section. But in updating this notebook, I've been looking at all of my loose leaf pocket rings pages, some of my personal pages. I dabbled a little bit in a passport size traveler's notebook behind the scenes this year, and I've kind of consolidated everything into this one notebook. And because I am a little bit, I don't know what the word, like obsessive is the word I want to use, on having my daily logs in chronological order. Yeah, I put in a lot of work consolidating those dailies kind of into one space so I could get all the way up to my current day. And I definitely don't think that this is not normal behavior. This is me just being me, but it's just paper and my time, and it's a good use of my time. I enjoy the process. So it took me about 2 days. I did it over the weekend. I think I started Friday afternoon, and I finished this Sunday evening, through my normal weekend activities, and now we can start setting up the rest of it. So before I kind of flick through and show you my dailies, let me just talk about like how I move into a new book, because I don't really ever share that process, I don't think. So when I move into a new planner, it's like this process depends on the notebook itself. So if I was moving over into like, say, personal rings or a pocket bullet journal, like a different completely blank notebook that isn't predated, then my general rule of thumb would be set up my monthlies, set up my habit trackers for the year, and then start at my nearest first of month. So as I'm filming this, today is the 12th of May, so I would have started May 1st and then just updated the last week and a half, and then start with my current day forward. So the backdating would be pretty minimal. Because this is a full year dated notebook, and I am doing this kind of in an effort to consolidate my full year into a Hobonichi, I did this a little bit differently. So when I moved into this, I start with my monthlies. I moved over my current monthly and all of my future events. That way I'm not missing any appointments. And honestly, this was a really good practice for me because I had things scattered across multiple notebooks that I didn't quite realize. But my previous months are still blank because honestly, I don't really need them. So I'll take my time transferring that, throughout the course of this month and next month. Just as I have time, I'll consolidate back into it, but need my future months forward. Same thing with my weeklies. I leave all my previous weeklies completely blank because I honestly don't really refer to them. And I will take my sweet time transferring these over as sort of like a creative outlet through the rest of the summer. But I start with my current weekly at the time, get the needed information over, and then same with my future weeklies within my current month. I generally break in 1 month at a time. So I've set up all my weeklies for May, and then I leave June completely blank, and I'll do sort of like a June setup session, and I'll break in the weeklies and transfer things over. But because of my desire to have my notes pages chronologically, I actually just blocked off what I want to do for my year-long trackers. So part of the activities of this week will be setting them up and kind of transferring information over that's needed. But I started by consolidating my dailies, and I do set up a daily every single day. I kind of lose my mind otherwise. I think it was 2013. 2023, I tried to use a standard size Hobonichi weeks and just it broke down. I need my dailies. I kind of lose my mind without them. So I do kind of bullet journal method for my general key, for my task list. An X is a completed task, a circle is an event, a strike through is something that was canceled. I do hearts a lot for little memories. You'll see a $sign for like big payment information. And then the other one that I do a lot is an asterisk with a circle. I think I've got one up here. Yeah. So when I do this asterisk with the circle, that means that this is indexed information. So something that I want to find again, and I will make sure to add that page and a reference onto the index of my bullet journal, which I do on the last weekly spread because I usually move over into a new book by the first week of the year. So that way I can find things again, and it's been really helpful to do that. I have kind of left things blank where I need to go through and just kind of transfer over trackers and things like that, but in general I tried to just kind of add in the list real time, and honestly I'm really glad I did this because I have like notes on our insurance for the house, things from the home buying process, things from the housing inspection that just kind of got sprinkled across multiple notebooks, and it's been really good to kind of consolidate that back into one book. And I don't know, like I just can't get through a year without backdating, I guess. And I also can't get it through a year without reaching for a Hobonichi at some point. So it is what it is, but yeah, I had a good time doing it. I'm using my Pilot Vanishing Point in extra fine, inked with the atramentis document ink, and all of the bolder font is with my Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen, which is this guy right here. Both are behaving okay. The Fudenosuke is kind of like breaking through. I wouldn't quite call it bleed through yet. If I go really heavy handed, so I'm a little bit bummed that the paper isn't as great as it was last year, but they're passable and those are kind of my go-to pens. So want to do some journaling here for Chicago Stationery Fest. But yeah, so I got this all up to date. I need to get some lists obviously done and trackers set up, so we'll get into that next. But my first order of operations was kind of getting my dailies set up so that I could get up to my current day and use the notebook normally. So I was very relieved to get that done this week. So now I can actually start like functionally planning in this, but I'll start doing the consolidation process. But next step will be setting up my core trackers for the year, and then I'll slowly start working through probably my monthlies next and then my weeklies. But yeah, hopefully that kind of explains my process for switching notebook. It's like really very much like the needful and then backfilling based to like where I need to get for my current daily. And because I'm insane and I want a full year in this notebook, that meant consolidating my dailies. But you're also talking to the girl that backfilled an entire Hobonichi cousin starting in August. So a May start for 8 weeks is a lot more sustainable. So glad to be doing that now. But definitely, yeah, don't ever feel obligated to do it. Like I honestly debated starting this in April and like faking an April start weeks, but I don't know, now that I've done it, I'm glad I got all my notes together. And yeah, I think that brings us up to current start. So let's get into the week. I thought I would wrap up this week's video by doing a little flip through of some of the trackers that I set up. I'm kind of doing them as and when I need them, so I did not tackle everything. I'm trying to kind of pace myself with backfilling things so I don't completely burn out, but I did set up a few. I got my adulting log set up, which is sort of a combination of when did I last mixed with non-automated things that I need to do to be a functioning person in society. So got that up to date. I also set up my index, which I'm very surprised about the amount of things that I have indexed already, but we can talk about that later. Haven't set up my financial summary pages yet. I'll probably do that at the end of May. I transferred my date night log, which is when my husband and I go on date nights, my reading log, which is primarily fan fiction, my physical books I set up in the back, which I'll show you here in a bit. I set up a to explore list, which is kind of a recommendations for things in our area, and I'm thinking about making this a sewing projects list. My next spread is for the shop / Lindsay Scribble / Patreon, and I do need to transfer over some insert notes for that, but for the most part this is just a sticky note hub, so I'm calling her complete. And then I did set up a spending check register just for my own personal fund money, and it's date money in or money out, balance description, and then a little check mark on the line for whether or not it's shipped or I've received it. And then in the innermost kind of invisible margin, I'm doing a running wish list, and I left myself 4 pages for that. I imagine I will run out of space, so I'll just do a tip-in wish list if needed. And I think the only other spreads that I set up were house related. So I set up my house projects, so things we want to improve or little repairs we need to do around the house, and then things to buy just for reference when we're out and about, that type of thing. Yeah, I think that is about it for those pages. And my reading log in the back. So I'm going to use the favorite spread for my physical / virtual TBR. These are books that I already own that I want to try and read in 2025. So the last 5 are on my Kindle, but the rest of them are physical books I have in the house. So if you're curious, there are 3 books on this list by Brandon Sanderson. I've got Trust in the Emerald Sea, Yumi and the Midnight Painter, and then on my Kindle I've got Way of Kings, which I'm purely reading to appease my husband. I'm currently reading When the Moon Hatched. I don't remember who that's by, Sarah something. My sister recommended that to me. I'm about 150 pages in and enjoying it so far. I have the number 2 and number 3 in the Atlas 6 series, which is one of the few books I rated 5 stars in the last few years. Although when I went to look up the titles, I noticed that the ratings get decreasingly lower, so we'll see how I feel about that. I have about 100 pages left in Iron Flame. I just wasn't ready for it to end, so I didn't finish it. And then I haven't read Onyx Storm, so get caught up there. I've got 2 books by Marissa Meyer. Gilded is one I think I picked up on vacation in 2023, maybe even 2022. I think it was 2023. So I want to read that. And then Heartless, which you saw me unbox at the beginning of the week, that would be a reread. Marissa Meyer primarily does retellings and young adults, but I do enjoy them. But yeah, Heartless, it hurt me in ways I'm not ready to talk about. And then the remaining books are the final 4 books in the Throne of Glass series. I'm really embarrassed to say that I haven't finished it. I've read most of ACOTAR, and I've read through Heir of Fire and Throne of Glass. And between the two, I am team Throne of Glass. I really like Elizabeth Evans, who, I think that's her name, who narrates the audiobooks. And I just identify with the main protagonist a little bit more in the Throne of Glass series, so it's my series of preference. But I've been dragging my feet on finishing it, so we're gonna catch up and read the last 4 again so I can get my toes dipped in. But I haven't read Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, or Kingdom of Ash, so hopefully we can get through that. And yeah, that's my physical TBR list. I think I will date when I complete it, give it a rating, and then just do a little blurb and call that a day. So yeah, I have been updating. I think you saw last night I did a little bit of journaling in my A6 avec, and I think in next week's video I'm going to talk more about this system, how it kind of works, my approach between things. But yeah, I did do my little journal session last night. I'm using black ink in here, and then I'm slowly starting to kind of work my way backwards. And this is what I was sketching, by the way, in last night's clip. But yeah, we're slowly working through. I did print off a few photos just to kind of get them placed, but I think next week we'll talk more about this. And the most asked question I get over on my Instagram is how I print my pictures, and I'm gonna have to print a lot of photos to start kind of working my way through this notebook. So maybe I will attempt to explain or share how I print my photos in next week's video too. So if you guys have any topics you want me to cover in future episodes, let me know. I'd love to create a little list in my notebook. But yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying it. Things are feeling pretty good. We're still in the honeymoon phase, so we'll see how I feel next week. But thank you for joining, and I will talk to you soon.